Hello, and welcome to this presentation on ClickSend's journey to 1 billion monthly API requests. My name is Asim Suvedi. I work for ClickSend. So we started back in 2013 as a small startup out of Perth, Australia. And since then, we've gone on to serve thousands of customers. And we've been acquired by Mrs. Media, and then again acquired by Cinch. So we are now Cinch ClickSend. A little bit about myself. My name is Asim Suvedi. As I said earlier, I'm a developer turned engineering manager. So an accidental manager, but thoroughly enjoying the management journey now. I've been leading teams mostly in product engineering. And I'm currently a senior engineering manager at Cinch ClickSend. So if you want to know about what ClickSend is, if you have received any notification through SMSs in Australia or globally regarding your events or your grocery deliveries or your two-factor authentications, you can think of that coming from one of our platforms, either Cinch or ClickSend or the other companies that we have as part of Cinch. But of course, that begs the question of what about spams, right? So yeah, spams are a big problem as well, and our team works 24/7 to make sure that we vet all of the SMSs, the senders, and the numbers that they send from or the tags that they send from. So there's a lot goes behind the scene. Well, there are two states of every programmer, right? If you have been from a developer background, we all feel like, one moment we feel like we're God, and one other moment we feel like we are kind of lost and we have no idea what we're doing, right? So that is one of the states that we all go through, and then we've gone through that as well. So I thought I'll just put it here as a reminder that we all go through these changes and through these moments as well. Okay, let's get on to it. Think how many people actually work on a system that has at least 1 million requests a day. While it is more common than probably 10 years ago now, but still there are not a lot of companies who actually serve millions of requests per day. And the reason why I'm talking about the 1 million requests per day is because this talk is all about scalability and our journey to scalability. To give you an idea, our system handles SMSs up to 600,000, more than 1 million at times. So this is what a typical week will look like in ClickSend. So you can see there will be peaks where customers are scheduling SMS campaigns. And one of them, you can see it's more than 550,000 SMSs at a time per campaign. And there are low moments as well, but the system keeps active. And then you can see there are the SMSs that are sent through it at each moment is in thousands. So we do have to build that. Right now, our ClickSend system can handle more than 500 SMSs per second. 38% of our customers actually come from or use our platform through APIs. And that's a large chunk of customers that use these APIs. And out of the 100%, 30% through API only, 55% through dashboards, and rest through our integrations and stuff. So that's a big volume, gives you an idea about the types of customer we focus on, and then the APIs, the importance of the APIs. In ClickSend, a typical week of requests, the API requests, looks like this, which is more than 200 million requests, which is a combination of automation requests, outbound, inbound, and receipts and email requests and stuff. So that if you add that up, it goes up to more than 1 billion requests per month. So that's a snapshot of our requests going through our system. or being processed by our system. While we are on the topic of um, scalability, the way I see scalability is not just a technical problem, but it also needs to be timed with business growth as well. So that is why this is something that I have thought about hard, and this is what I believe, that when it comes to scalability and business growth, the business growth is important at all the stages. But when it begins, the business growth is more important than scalability. That's why if you see the graph over here, where the scalability dips and the business growth keeps on the straight line, is because we need to focus on getting those first few customers or first 100 customers, trying to find them product market fit. And if the scalability is not the priority at that moment. However, there is an intersection point when you have a product market fit. Um, and from that point on, the scalability really needs to ramp up and ramp up and up, so that when the business is growing and whatever stage the business in, which is the straight line, and the ability of platform to scale, the gap between those is what the potential is. So business could grow up to the level where the platform can handle services. So I call that the potential gap there between the system's ability to scale and the business growth or the current business growth. So what are the key to scalability? Serving billions of requests, right? You might think APIs, of course. This is the talk about it, API in the API Days conference. So obviously the APIs, yes, but just building APIs doesn't give you scalability. So our APIs are really important for us, and then we have API first mindsets. So it's, we call that our APIs are VIPs. All of our APIs that we build are secured to be used externally. So one of the mindset we have is that when you build an API, don't build it just for internal use or for specific use cases. Build it with a mindset that it is actually going to be used by the customer in future. So that is one of our strategies we do. So in order to implement the API first strategy, so what we do is we have 5 key areas that we really focus on. We really focus on consistency of our APIs through the open API specifications and stuff. We make our APIs extendable enough because we need to integrate with a lot of our platforms externally. For example, Salesforce, Intercom, Zoho. So we have hundreds of integrations there. So whenever we build an API, we need to take the extendability in mind as well. And of course, security goes without saying. The security needs to be the top priority as well. And then comes the scalability factors in terms of what is our throughput and how fast those APIs should be able to serve and what is the architecture there. And last but not the least, of course, is the documentation, which is really important, but also a very boring topic for a lot of engineers and for a lot of technical people. So I can't go through all of the topics right now in this short talk. But what I will do is I'll highlight one of the key things that we've done recently in terms of documentation, because that is one of the components of the developer experience, but also trying to build the APIs, or we already have a lot of APIs. How do we get that out to the public and make it really reusable? So we came up with this workflow and we designed this API documentation pipeline where it is end-to-end automated. So we first took all of our APIs and we built OS out of those. So we generated the OS. Once we generated the OS, we used our existing code samples and SDKs and everything to tie up to it. We revamped the design, and then we used one of these tools like Redocly, API or Mentify to actually help us with our end-to-end build pipeline, which spits out a new API portal. So this was a really crucial project for us because our workflow was a little bit manual, where you have to build an API, document it, publish it. So having a document generated or the API docs generated all the way from OS when you write that when you are actually writing the API as well, and just pushing that through, getting that to the production with end-to-end pipeline, and then auto-generating the codes and auto-generating the SDKs really helped us to make sure that we have that taken care of and we don't have to do a lot of manual handling. The next one, obviously, after the API first strategy in our journey, is tackling the inevitable monolith. So we all end up with some sort of monolith in our systems. When a startup starts, as we said earlier, scalability is not a primary focus. Hence, we try to build as many features as possible that is useful to our customers to find a product market fit. We all start with an idea that we're going to build this beautiful product, right? And we have this imagination in head, but through circumstances and requirements and different situations, priorities, what we end up is something like that. We all take shortcuts, rather than building the stairs inside the house. We go like, it's too easy to build this outside, just build it and let's run it. So this analogy is more about where we want to be and where we end up, not by choice, but by the work that we are doing and everything that we do on a day-to-day basis. It leads us to something that becomes a monolith. So obviously, in order to build in our journey of serving billion requests per month, we had to tackle our monolith because it was blocking our teams. There were extensive testing that needed to be done. There were low trust in our deployment environment. Again, that's a massive speed blocker, and even though we didn't want to, the ways of working was pretty much top down because everything had to be consolidated, decided, verified to make sure that we are not making mistakes. And then our DB was taking a hit. We had bad developer experience. Our security threat surface was growing or really big. And overall, our innovation just stalled. We couldn't innovate fast enough. So how did we tackle the monolith, right? And obviously, you would say microservices. So microservices everywhere, right? And that's one way to tackle it, yes. And that is one of the thoughts and quite common idea these days as well. But it's not enough to just say it's microservices, right? So breaking monolith to microservices, yes, we did that. Breaking monolith to microservices, yes, that is one of our strategy, but not the entire strategy, as in you blindly just split them out, going too granular or going too big of the services, where you again end up with essentially the big ball of mud, the monolith again. So we didn't want to end up there. So how did we think about going to monolith is something that can be described by what Werner Vogel said here. Is if you're concerned about scalability, then any algorithm that forces you to run agreement will eventually become your bottleneck. That's a given. So this is one of the principles that we really thought about when we started designing our microservices. To give you a bit of a sneak peek on building short URL service that we did recently, and through this example, I really want to highlight when building systems, it's not straightforward, and you have to actually take care of multiple things. For example, as you can see here, we have an existing VPC with our SMS service. So what we had to do was we had to put in a service in between that, where we call post short URLs. So we had to use that service or make changes to the existing monolith, and then go and link it to our shared VPC model, which is our new way of working in terms of having separate accounts and microservices. And this is what the microservices architecture looks like in a very high level and very simplistic level. So when the SMS is being sent, there is a stage where we put out a lot of, we call out the short URL service to convert the long URL to short URLs, thousands of short URLs. But to simplify this even further, to explain, what the challenge was, one of the challenges was working with the monolith itself to change that, to make sure that we can use microservices. The gist here, or the silver lining here, not the silver lining, but the key point here is that even if you want to move away from monoliths to microservices, it takes a long time to break that down. And until then, you really have to play nice with the monolith. So we had to play really nice with the monolith, and that was one of our challenges. And you need to take care of that and expect that as well when you are building a microservices or breaking down your monolith to microservices. So we did a VPC peering with a shared VPC, and we built the short URL service. However, when we build the short URL service, our regular Lambda services that we wanted to go with, the databases that we wanted to go with, wasn't a good fit for our service, mainly because we knew from the previous services that we created that Lambda had a cold start problem. So we couldn't use that. So we instead went with a containers model to run our short URL service in containers so that we can achieve faster results or faster processing. And we use DynamoDB for that, mainly because we were already using the DynamoDB, but also it was a lot cheaper to run. And also it was the best one for doing faster writes and reads, which is required by the short URL service. One of the key challenges that, again, going with DynamoDB was that it didn't solve our problem just because using DynamoDB. We wanted to have a lot of conditional writes, and DynamoDB didn't have that capability out of the box. So we had to use an add-on called PartyQL. So using PartyQL, we were able to solve a lot of latency problem, and also it allows us to do a lot of conditional writes to our DynamoDB. So the lesson from this one is that you have to play nice with monolith. You still need to take care of it. And you might have to do a lot of research and spikes in order to get these things working. So in a typical quarter, we do a lot of spikes, anywhere between 10 to 20 spikes. Each of our teams do that in order to make sure that we are actually getting the best out of our services that we are building, and we are not breaking anything, and we are actually increasing the throughput. And just because we are creating microservices, we are not decreasing the throughput. So the key learnings was you can't discard the monolith, play nice with it. Lambda has cold start problem. It says colds here, but it's a cold start problem, typo. So we used containers. DynamoDB latency was the biggest challenge, and it didn't have conditional writes. So we used PartyQL, and team needs the time to skill up as well. That was one of the biggest hurdles as well. When you are a company which started in 2013 and has been quite successful, we need to keep the business going as well. So team needs to learn and implement these things while also working on the existing monoliths. So you cannot discount the learning time and the skill up time and the time to do a lot of spikes into your initiative when you are going from monolith to microservices. And lastly, don't forget to turn off your instances off, because cloud is great, but also cloud can come up with a lot of bills. So make sure that you are using the services that you need, and you are setting up things in a way that it doesn't cost you a lot. Now, the API first strategy and microservices aren't enough. These are more technical solutions to it, and we felt that just doing these was not enough for us. So what we also needed to do was create specific domains for our team. So we needed to have teams focusing more into the depth rather than across the breadth. So we wanted the teams to focus more on the depth of each of the domains. So we created multiple domains in order to assist us with breaking that monolith down. We created separate AWS accounts and deployment models for each of the teams so that they can work separately. So the overall thing was we wanted them to have ownership and responsibility for doing end-to-end work. So essentially, in a nutshell, build it, run it, maintain it. So that is the model we wanted to go with. And that in itself is quite a work to get the team on board with it, to get the ways of working all organized for it. And if you are a scale up, that could be one of the challenges. And that is one of the challenges we faced, and we solved it as well. And teams are now in an incredible place. The other one is security. So with security, we had a very tough year on 2023. Tough in a sense that we became a magnet for the attackers to do a lot of credit stuffing attack. Every morning, our DevOps team and our engineering team will wake up to a lot of credit stuffing attacks happening in our platform. So we wanted to equip them with better tools and do something with it. But when you think of, security, a little bit of meme here, and if you have been around long enough, I think you will understand this meme. So we wanted to give a lot of tools to our security, equip them with tools. So what we did is we revised our API gateway. We built a custom auth plugin to make sure that we can handle the credit stuffing attacks. We did a lot of normal things like rate limiting, IP address blocking, put a WAF in front of our systems, and it's not foolproof, but it works. So I would recommend WAF, but also, the caveat there is that don't rely 100% on it, and you might need more than WAF. And believe it or not, we still had username password used in our as our API authentication. So we had to move away from that. So we moved to API keys really fast. It's still a challenge, but we are very confident that we're keeping our bad actors away. We are now also working on integrating Cloudflare into our infrastructure to make sure that we are much secure. So 2024 has been a great year. So we have been able to fend off a lot of attackers through two-factor authentications, and then API keys using WAFs, gateways, rate limitings, the recent integration of Cloudflare, and then also we are looking into better ways of assessing and vetting the accounts that are being signed up and vetting the SMSs that are being sent through our platform. Even after that, the journey doesn't end there. Everything changes all the time, and everything fails all the time. So that is the mindset I like to think of, is that expect a change, expect that it will always fail and be ready for it, and prepare yourself to the best of your abilities and best of the capabilities that you have. So I'll leave you with a bit of a checklist that we provide to our teams when it comes to modernizing our services and then, making our systems scalable. So I'll just run through quickly these checklists, but you can get a download of this slide through a QR code that I'm going to present at the end. But for that, a little bit about ClickSend to end. ClickSend was started in 2013. We had our first account on the same year. We got acquired by Message Media in Australia in 2019. In 2022, we joined the Sitch Group. In 2023, we had 400,000 account, and then it's been more than a year since then. So we have a lot more accounts than that. We have more than 90,000 customers and 232 plus direct carriers. We have 29.95 uptime, and we integrate with all of these platforms. These are very few of the platforms that we integrate with, like Google Makes, Shopify, Slack, Zapier, Salesforce, Zoho, and hundreds of other integrations as well. So Thank you so much. Here is uh, the QR code you can use in order to download the slides. And if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me on that email address. Thank you for listening. Hope you got a little bit out of it. And feel free to connect me on LinkedIn and send me a message if you have any questions. And good luck.